And good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Vikings Postgame Live, brought to you by Mystic Lake. We are live at U.S. Bank Stadium for our final Postgame Live show of this 2020 season in early 2021. Mark Rosen along with Pete Bercich, and I guess a final score 37-35, befitting of where these two teams, the Vikings and Lions, ended up, Pete. Not a lot of defense out there, a lot of fun stuff to talk about with Justin Jefferson in particular, but entertaining game, but that's about all you can say about it.
No, I mean, it was entertaining. I mean, offensively, obviously, these two teams had at it, and ironically, the Lions started with Matt Patricia, defensive head coach. Mike Zimmer is a defensive head coach. But you take a look at our group that we had there on the field defensively, you may see two, maybe three of those faces starting next year. Mm-hmm. So there's going to be a big amount of rebuilding. But offensively, I mean, what more can you say? I mean, from a numbers standpoint, this group has really, really done a great job all season long. And you had performances like Dalvin Cook, and you had Adam Thielen with 14 red zone touchdowns. And then let's just put on top of it a Rookie of the Year, should be Rookie of the Year winner. When with Justin Jefferson breaking a record by Anquan Bolden that stood for, I think, 18 seasons. It's something that hasn't, it's the most since 1970. That's 50 years.
Unbelievable.
It's been 50 years, at least, since someone has done something like Jefferson's done.
Well, let's look at
this kind of a year. Are you kidding me?
Let's look at Jefferson's stats today. 9 receptions, 133 yards, you mentioned. He was focused, knowing full well what the record was for the Minnesota Vikings rookie record. Let's start with that. When you mention him in the same breath as Randy Moss in that 1998 season that you know all too well, Pete Bercich, that in itself is an accomplishment. He had it on his shoes today. He recognized that this was his goal, and got that first and foremost.
And I think that's something what makes Justin Jefferson special as well is that, he's honoring the past in Randy Moss, and he's talking about the future, which he is the future, and he's the future of this Viking receiving corps. I know he didn't have the touchdowns I think that Randy had his rookie year, but just the number of receptions and the fact that, he doesn't have a Chris Carter and a Jake Reed to be 1 and 2 and be the third guy. He's really the guy. So to get 1,400 yards, I'm so glad that he beat Anquan. He was a yard, I believe, ahead of Anquan Bolden. Mm-hmm. Had one more reception later in the game to put him at 1,400. I mean, he had one day today to get that record. Now he has a lifetime to remember it. And so congratulations to him.
Those two main catches he made. And keep in mind, we've talked about it on this show a number of times. He didn't play really the first 2 games of the season.
No, he didn't. He didn't. And his numbers at home and the road games have been crazy. But this is just what he does. Gets across the middle of the field. He's able to get, and he'll flatten this route out just underneath the safety. And how many times have we seen this? The first guy doesn't tackle him. His run after the catch has been fantastic. So able to catch the ball, turn it upfield. One guy misses on an ankle tackle. He cuts back, makes another guy's missing. A linebacker has to chase him down. So he added 20 yards to that reception. And then you have this one here. It's just a quick read, gets the out route, and beats the defender to the sideline. I mean, had Cousins gotten that ball a little bit more where he could get it under control, that would have been another 10 yards. He would have tacked on the end of that one.
And that's the one that broke the NFL rookie record right there, that reception by Justin Jefferson. What an afternoon, what a season, what a rookie year for Justin. And, the best is yet to come because, Kirk Cousins hasn't stopped talking about this kid having those natural instincts. But I think you You made a really good point, a couple different points right there about it. His ability, what separates him from other receivers or rookie receivers, his ability to come back for the football, reading the eyes of the quarterback, and then doing something after he catches it. And you can only imagine, we look at that still shot of Anquan Boldin, we know how physical a receiver he was. And I don't know what Jefferson's going to look like when he gets more muscles on him, but I got to believe he's going to understand even more about how he has to approach his profession in the NFL.
Absolutely. I think there's a couple of things. Number one, his ability to get separation. I mean, he's able to, with his route running ability, create separation between himself and the corner or whomever's trying to cover him. The second part of that is, again, I only remember one pass all year that hit him in the hands that he should have caught. I think it was against Dallas that he didn't come down with. And you take a look at his route tree week after week. Rosie, we've been doing this, and you're seeing almost as much green as you are gray. So my point is he's a good underneath route runner, and he's dangerous after the catch. And, oh, by the way, he is still fast enough to get behind the defense, and you can hit with the deep ball. So his talent set is really, it covers the gamut, and that's such a rarity in this league, and that's why his numbers have been so prolific, because he's not pigeonholed as a possession, quote-unquote, underneath type receiver. The 15.9 yard average is really what's amazing, and after what happened this offseason with the wide receiver position, and for him to come in here and do this has just been, it's just been amazing. Stephon Diggs, he's had a great year. I don't think there's a single fan out there that wouldn't say, yeah, I'll take Justin Jefferson over Stephon Diggs right now, even though Diggs had another prolific year. It was kind of a win-win situation. Where the Vikings got the draft out of the deepest draft class in the league.
Correct.
Or maybe in the history of the draft at that position, and we got the best one.
Well, Justin Jefferson was all smiles. You probably saw it on the sidelines this afternoon, and he certainly was as well when he discussed them with the media after today's win in Detroit.
Well, Justin, what's it mean to break Randy Moss's team record? And I know you finished second overall in NFL history. And then also tell us about those cleats you wore.
Well, it's an honor to break Randy Moss's record. Him being a Hall of Famer and him just being so dominant in this league, and to break his record is truly a blessing. It's truly crazy to be in this position. And the cleats, I had to honor him. I had a good chance to break the record today, so I had to put him on the cleats. I got to get him to sign it so I can put him in my trophy case.
Yeah, well-deserved. You should put those cleats in his trophy case along with that football that broke not only Moss's record but Boldin's record. And I think, Pete, coming in this game thinking maybe there's some speculation how Mike Zimmer, the coaches, would approach this game, knowing it really doesn't mean anything in the long run. Would they rest most of their stars? We knew that, unfortunately, Dalvin Cook had to be with his family back in Florida, the unexpected passing of his father, so they knew when the big star running back was out of it. But thinking, will Mannion play a half? Will they rest Jefferson once he gets to the Moss record and let BZ Johnson and others play? But they decided basically go with their starters today.
Yeah, and unfortunately, you're not deep enough to sit everybody, right? You kind of lose Riley Reif to COVID, so you have to put Rashad Hill over there. I would like to have seen Oli Udoh get a little bit more playing time, but there's only a handful of guys that you can really sprinkle in defensively. Right, we've been watching those guys for the last 3 or 4 weeks. So,
well, let's take a look at the highlights, of them. There were plenty of them today, including Adrian Peterson, of all people, for the Detroit Lions. Matthew Stafford playing through, 10, 15 sort of injuries, got the Lions on the board first here.
He did. We only got to him once, but Marvin Jones Jr. covered 2, getting up one-on-one on the safety and breaking it to the side and a great throw.
4th and 2, Alexander Mattison.
Alexander Mattison is a very versatile. You got Dalvin Cook already, then you have Mattison as his backup, and Madison's a great runner. He's really good after the catch. He's a great route runner. I mean, a nice duo in running backs there.
There goes Adrian Peterson. 38-yard run, I believe his longest of the season.
It was, and, it was a cutback on Eric Wilson. It was a blitz. We had a guy there. He just didn't make the tackle.
There's a touchdown pass to Abdullah. The Vikings, again, it's going back and forth in this one.
Yeah, this is an offensive, and this is one of the craziest things that you're going to see. Beebe not going down. You have 2 defensive backs, get a shoulder on him, And they're kind of like, hey, I thought you had him. And
Supposed to out of bounds.
Yeah, BB comes in and pulls that thing in for a touchdown. Second one of the season.
Well, there's a fake, and there was what Matthew Stafford did best as well, because the rookie defensive back had no shot.
No, Cordrea Tankersley was just totally out-faked on that one.
Yeah, I've never heard of that guy.
No, and exactly right. And, it's just kind of how it goes in this kind of a game.
Well, went back and forth. Peterson scoring his first ever touchdown against the Vikings.
That's right. In 6 games, I believe that was his first touchdown. So he had his best day against the Vikings today.
Kirk Cousins scoring a touchdown on a quarterback. What in the world? Yeah, he's that awkward guy at the wedding reception that decides to get on the dance floor.
The amazing part, Rosie, is right after this happened, you stood up in our booth.
I did.
And did that dance, and you did it better than Cousins did. It's kind of like how...
Very similar. Have to mention, again, one of the worst calls all of us have ever seen, roughing the passer penalty that they called against the Lions after sacking Cousins on 4th down. I guess they called him for tackling, basically.
Yeah, whatever that was. I mean, that's, it's they're protecting the quarterbacks. I understand that. I think that's prudent to do, but it's gone a little bit too far. I think you look at these numbers, the big one is the turnovers. Harrison Smith, with his interception, he almost had 2 today. Harry finished the season off right. 5 interceptions this year, half a sack. Had a really, really good year.
Keep in mind, Kirk Cousins, when you look at those passing yards, 383, actually threw for 405. I guess maybe they took some yards away. I'm not quite sure how that worked out, but according to the stats, he went 28 out of 40 for 405 yards and 3 touchdowns. No interceptions. Did get sacked a couple of times, that's for sure. And that's a big point. We'll be talking with you and Ben Leber as the show progresses here. Kind of a theme all year long where the Vikings just couldn't manufacture any sort of a pass rush. I think Ngakoue, who they traded real early on in the season, ended up being their sack leader this year.
Right, and that's the thing. You wonder how Ngakoue's doing in Baltimore, because he might have the opportunity to lead 2 teams in sacks during the same season. And, here's the thing. You were hoping that like an Afadi Adenabo could step up and be that guy to get you, like the 6 or 7. But when DJ Wanham, we know he's young. He has his futures in front of him. You have Jalen Holmes. I mean, Jaleel Johnson playing inside in the 3 technique. Every once in a while, you have to beat somebody one-on-one. This is not a scheme thing. This is not saying you can draw up the perfect blitzes and do those kinds of things. But every once in a while, somebody just has to go out there old-fashioned and beat the guy in front of them and come down with the quarterback. And it really, Todd Davis had a sack against the Chicago Bears, and until Mata Afa had his today, and he was a spy. Right. He wasn't even rushing the passer. We didn't have any in between. So the least number of sacks that we had as a team, I believe, is 22 this year. That's by far the least of a Mike Zimmer defense. That, I think, is going to be the number one topic to address coming away from this game, is your defensive front needs to get better in a hurry.
And for a head coach who self-described defensive guru, I mean, he knows. He's talked about always having a good defense, and he admitted even last week in particular, we're not a very good defense. They weren't again today. They gave up 35 points. So let's hear what the head coach had to say after today's 37-35 win in Detroit.
So, good team win today. I want to share my utmost respect for Matthew Stafford, the way that he battled and played today after having as many injuries as he's had. I've got the utmost respect for him as a player and a leader. So, they've got some great weapons. All those guys, a couple of those guys were with us when we played in Cincinnati. Marvin Jones and Sanu. I have a lot of respect for those guys. They did a nice job as well. But, I thought our team battled today. Obviously, offensively played really well. We started out slow, but we picked it up quick. Defensively we started out okay, and then we struggled there at the end with some of the throws that they were making. But we came in and we battled. We were very shorthanded, missing a lot of guys on defense, and missing obviously Dalvin and Riley today. So, but it's good to get a win, and it's a nice way to start the new year.
What can you say, Mike, about just Justin Jefferson, his game today, and then his whole season? I mean, he broke Randy Moss's rookie yardage record today to go along with breaking his catch record a few weeks ago.
Yeah, well, Jefferson's a good player. I love the way he competes. He catches everything. He's, continually gets better and better and better. He's a great weapon to have and should be for many, many years.
Mike, how soon do you go into fix-it mode for 2021?
Yeah, Joe, I think, you've been thinking about it a little bit, but, last week, once we determined that we were out. But I think for me, the biggest thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take some time, maybe this next week, and I'm going to evaluate all the players that we have on the team. I'm going to sit down and write evaluations out on all the guys. And then I think that will start the evaluations. Obviously, there'll be some other things that we have to deal with. But once this week gets over, then Rick and I will sit down and George Payton will sit down and we'll figure out exactly where we need to go. And, I have a decent idea on a lot of the areas right now, but, we'll have to take a look at the salary cap. We'll have to take a look at the draft. We'll have to take a look at, the personnel and then kind of go from there.
Coach, what were your thoughts on the 2-minute touchdown drive there before the half and BB's score? Just kind of the offense's execution on that possession. Yeah,
really, it was great. We had a couple tough situations in there, if I remember right, but we had, and there was 11 seconds left. So really, we're just trying to get the ball out of bounds, and kind of reminded a little bit of the miracle play. He caught the ball, they missed the tackle, and we ran it in. So. That helped. Defensively, we came up with about 3 two-point stops today, I think, which was big. And so, but yeah, those kind of plays are big.
Mike, everyone knows that Justin Jefferson is just an incredible kid and has huge talent. But the way he's played probably the second half of the season with all these expectations thrown at him and with teams encircling him, what most impresses you that he can come through? And especially on a game like today where he knew those records were hanging in the air and he still came through.
Yeah, I haven't talked to him about records and things like that. I don't know that he really worries too much about those things. He just likes to play football. The thing, he made one catch on the sideline today, reaching that way out to get it. Those kind of plays are the impressive ones to me. There's been several throughout the course of the year where guys are draped all over him and he comes down with the ball because he's got such good catch radius. But he's a big kid. He runs fast. I think he'll continue to get better and better. And people are really, cheating coverages to him quite a bit now, last few weeks.
How refreshing was it for you to see the offense kind of close out the game with the long drive to run out the clock?
Yeah, it was big. I think there's 4 minutes left or something. We took it over, and we make the 4th and half a yard to be able to take a knee. So that was big.
Mike, can you put a finger on all the struggles that Dan Bailey had to finish the season, and how much consideration did you give to perhaps giving Taylor Bertolette a look today?
I didn't give any thought about it. He hurt his back last week against New Orleans on the first kickoff, so that's probably part of his struggles.
Hey, Mike, I know it's only been about 20 minutes since the season ended, but your initial thoughts just on Kirk and the type of year that he had this year?
I think he's improved. He improved a lot. He probably started out a little slow at the beginning of the season, but I think at the end of the year he's had some big time games, made some big time throws. He's took much better care of the football. Got away with one today, obviously, but I think he's had a good year. It's unfortunate that we couldn't do a little bit better and win a few more games so he could showcase himself even more.
Time for two more.
It was also a franchise record for, I think, 6 receivers with 40 or more receiving yards. Just talk about the way that everyone kind of took the opportunities that they were handed with a few more to go around in Dalvin's absence, I guess.
Yeah, well, we've got some good players. Irv Smith and Conklin and Adam. And obviously we're missing Rudy today, but BB made some good plays. BC Johnson. We got some good receivers, and that will continue to be a strength of ours, and we'll continue to figure out how to fill some of the other holes that we have.
Mike, is there always something about these last games where, regardless how a season ends, this is the last run for this group of guys that you spent so much time with over the last year?
Well, I mean, I'm proud of the way that these guys went through all the protocols and everything that they had to do, and all the different changes that were made, and the way that we handled our business at that, the way they practiced. It's frustrating that we had so many injuries, especially defensively, and guys opt out, and Hunter and Barr and Kendricks, and a lot of times when you get injured players, it depends on who injured players are. And we had a lot of really good ones get hurt this year. So we've got a lot of work to do. I've got a lot of work to do. And in saying all that, I'll say two things. We probably weren't good enough as a football team this year to be in the playoffs. We weren't good enough defensively, obviously. But we missed a lot of guys, and the guys that end up playing, they battled like crazy, and we still had opportunities to win a few more games probably. We just, with the turnover that we had, the injuries that we had on defense, we weren't good enough. We fought like crazy, and 7-9's not great, but through all the circumstances and everything that went on, maybe it's the best we could have done. Thank you.
Well, that sums it up by Mike Zimmer. They just were not good enough. And that kind of a big picture question to you, Pete Bercich. Given the fact the Vikings finished 7-9, it was an entertaining game. Justin Jefferson accomplished what he wanted to do. A lot of fans maybe listening right now going, they would have been a lot better off losing this game, moving up X number of spots in the draft. You're kind of shaking your head about that. When you're looking to improve your team, is it too much weight put on that one particular pick and actually the rest of the draft as well? Or does it matter that much when you're kind of the middle of the pack moving up?
Well, absolutely. You pick one of the best wide receivers that this league has seen as a rookie, and you got him 22nd. We also got Randy Moss later in the first round. Yeah, if it was about drafting early, if that was what it was all about, then Jacksonville and Cleveland would be the two best football teams in the NFL. And we know it's about more than that. Now, I think that interior of the defensive line is something that you're going to have to address. You need to get some more size and speed, maybe another defensive end. Consistency at the offensive guard position. We got to have someone that can pass block as well as run block, but we need that physicality. And then cornerback depth. Mike, we went through the year with Gladney and with Dantzler, got those guys healthy, got those guys to start. I think, I'm happy with Gladney the way he finished the season. Mike Hughes, though, has been on and off that IR list for the last couple of years, and so the question is,
on it. Yeah.
You expect him to be the starter coming in, but you can't count on those guys to be healthy throughout the year. Our number 3 corner was an issue as well. Obviously, the linebackers are going to get healthy again, but I think in this day and age, in this game, with the way it's spread out and the way it's played, interior defensive linemen have become so important. We had Linval Joseph, and I don't know how many times we called his name throughout the season and the big plays that he made as a run stopper in the middle of the field. This year, I know Shamar Stephan moving around, doing those things. We'll see. He moved the 3 technique. How much better will he be there? But Michael Pierce, we haven't seen him. No one's seen him. You have no idea how big he is. Has he been staying in shape? What's he been doing? So there are a lot of question marks. I think that's what kind of Zim alluded to when he said he's going to take a long look, and there's a lot of work to do to shore up that defensive front.
Well, as Mike Zimmer talked about, they go through that evaluation process right now. And as a former assistant coach with the Vikings, I'm sure you took part in some of those discussions as well. So he has to look at the team he has right now. And we all know that there aren't many guys on that defense that started today that'll be starting next September, whomever they open up against.
Right.
So do you look at you have to look at the salary cap. You have to look at potentially what you have to pay Danielle Hunter. You have to figure out all that stuff with Rick Bercich as well. It's a lot to unpack now for this team right now.
From a 10,000 foot view, you put guys into three different categories, and you say, is this guy a winner? Can we win with him as a starter? Mm-hmm. Then you have the next rung of guys that are, we can win a game or two with them. Like a Todd Davis, so to speak. Can he come in there and can you win a game or two with him? And then the third group is the upgrade pile, and that's where you want to go. So you have to outline, number one, who the keepers are, who are the guys that can start and are good starters, and you can win and get to the playoffs with these guys. The next level, guys that you can win with. And then there's the upgrade group, and that's really where you have to start. You start with the upgrade group, and that's where you go. How many? Are there a lot of guards for free agency this year? Is it a draft that has a lot of guards in it? I mean, you find that direction to say how hard do we have to push as in free agency to fill that void because it's not going to be there in the draft.
From an offensive standpoint, look at that offensive line. I think they obviously need help at the guard position. There were times that the Vikings offensive line just got overpowered by bigger, stronger defensive lines. Think of the Bears. You think of some other teams as well that just dominated in the Saints game a little bit. So is it just a question of getting newer players in here, but also stronger, more physical guys? Because they could run the football. We've seen that with Dalvin Cook all year long. Yeah. But they got to get more maulers in there, I would think.
Well, I mean, you do. I think, for Garrett Bradbury, we talked to John Sullivan during the season, on the radio, and he said, he's just got to get his man strength. He's got to learn how to drop his anchor, which, that'll come with time, right? It takes a while to get that strength about you. Riley Reif came in, I thought, did a nice job. You have O'Neal on the other side. Offensively, when you look at the offseason, you are looking to add a few pieces. Right, it's not a rebuild. You're saying, we could use another. You could use a grinder at the guard position, and I still think a really good blocking tight end, almost an offensive lineman, a Jimmy Kleinsasser like kind of guy, will really help in the running game. Outside of that, though, there's really not much to add. Your running back room is unbelievable. I think with or without Kyle Rudolph, your tight end room is very, very good. Obviously, your first two wide receivers are great. Now, who's going to be number three? Who cares? That is not that pressing. Defensively is where you really have to take a step back. And that's where those tough conversations are going to be, because I'd be curious to know how many of the 8 defensive linemen that started today do they want back next year.
Yeah, I would think that'd be a small amount, but we'll find out as the months progress. Meanwhile, the quarterback position is settled with Kirk Cousins, despite what a lot of fans feel about him, that he may not be the guy. He beat New Orleans in the playoffs last year, but look at his scatter chart. The question I have is you look at Kirk, and you heard Mike Zimmer talk about it. Overall, he got better and better as this year went on, and he was able to make plays off schedule, like Gary Kubiak said, and he improved running the ball a little bit when he had the opportunity, looking off his number one receiver. But my question long run, do the Vikings need to get a younger guy behind him potentially to be the heir apparent, or don't you even worry about that? Because, Mannion's not the guy. They don't have the guy in waiting right now for this football team, even like the Packers have done when they drafted Love first, their first-round draft pick.
Yeah, we'll see how that one works out.
Yeah, we don't know yet.
But Cousins isn't the kind of guy that needs a mentor. He doesn't need another veteran behind him to guide him. He's not a young quarterback. So, yes, I think that's an opportunity to say we could go with someone younger, someone that we want to develop, somebody who might need a couple of years to get under their belt and watch and learn under Kirk. Kirk, if anything, he's managed to stay healthy. He keeps himself healthy. And I do think that when you watch some of the highlights from this year, early on he tried to force and make some things happen, and that's how the interception number got up. But once this offense got into a rhythm and he's able to get outside and scramble and do those things, with the running game as good as it is, teams bring in safeties, you try to stop the run, and then Cousins is an accurate deep ball passer. I mean, that's one of the things that he can do better than almost any quarterback in the league right now is throw accurately and throw it deep. Once he gets better at extending plays with his legs, I think, moving in the pocket so you don't get as many balls, batted down. And even if, seeing two-man and doing those things, pulling the ball down and running but making a quick decision, he'll get even better. So, he had a great year statistically, and I think one more year, if we keep Kubiak around, starting the season next year with the same offense, I don't care if it's a different signal caller. It's just different, trust me. And I think he's going to have a great year.
Ben Leber's joined the conversation. And, Ben, let's get your thoughts about Kirk. Let's start with that. What did you see in as far as back in September starting against the Packers? The whole team was kind of flat coming off of no training camp sort of situation. But did you see the kind of improvement you wanted to see from the quarterback? And what areas does he still have to get better at?
Yeah, I think the improvement was outstanding. I mean, he talked about feeling the pocket a little bit more, sliding around the pocket, using his legs a little bit more, and we saw him get better and better as the season went on. He talked about being more efficient with the ball distribution. Don't always just focus on the deep guy. Look to the checkdowns, look to the intermediate routes. He did that as well. I loved everything about Kirk's game except for not holding on the ball at times. I mean, you're going to get hit sometimes on a blindside hit, on a sack. There's going to be some inadvertent ways that the defense just pokes the ball out. I understand some of those things, but he has to do a better job of protecting the football when he's getting sacked, doing a better job of understanding, okay, maybe I should just throw this ball away, not take the sack, or don't force this ball in there into an interception. So he's got to get better taking care of the ball. But that's about it. And that's even at times a little bit nitpicky. I know the fans want to jump on him sometimes for not holding on the ball when he's getting sacked at times, but the defensive players make plays too. There wasn't a lot that I saw at Kirk Cousins that I said, oh, man, we got to move on, and this isn't the guy. He played phenomenal football this year. Take care of the ball a little bit more, and he's fine.
A couple defensive players up here. Imagine if they have a defense that can flip the field position.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, instead of going 70 yards, 75 yards, only have to go 40 or 50. If you put that kind of pressure, you get a quarterback sack on a 3rd and 6 or 3rd and 7. They have to punt out of the end zone instead of moving the chains. That changes everything for an offense.
On average, our defense gave up 10 more points a game this year than they did a year ago. 10.
Wow.
Think about that. That difference would obviously make this a playoff football team. So it's on that side. The onus, I think, is on obviously that side of the football to get better. You can't ask for much more than what you got this year out of our offense.
And looking ahead let's talk about Dalvin Cook a little bit, because again, our sympathies go out to his family, losing his dad at a very young age in Florida. So Dalvin was home naturally with his family this weekend. But you think about the running game in the big picture, Ben Leber, and how NFL teams use running backs. And you got an elite running back like Dalvin Cook. Can he still, or should he still be the focus of an offensive team philosophy?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's. Everybody going into the season was like, well, A, why would you pay this guy? And then B, you can't have a prolific offense if you're going to be running it through a running back. That's not the way the modern NFL works. Are you kidding me? I mean, you look at the rushing stats right there, facing 8-9-man box sometimes, a crowded run box. He was still able to rip off 1,500 yards and didn't even play in this football game. He was over 5 yards, right at 5 yards a carry. The offense itself, in a run-first fashion, produces Justin Jefferson. Thielen's just under 1,000 yards and 14 touchdowns. I mean, you have two young tight ends that I think everybody's very, very, happy about and hopeful about. There's not much more this offense could have done in a quote-unquote run-first fashion.
Yeah, and Dalvin Cook, you take a look at all-purpose yards. That's important. I don't think there's a better all-around running back in the league. I mean, if you talk about a guy who can obviously run the football, who can catch the football, great screens, good route runner, but he's also an unbelievable pass protector, getting in there and being physical in pass protection, which is not something a lot of running backs like to do, but Dalvin Cook does an amazing job, and then there it is, the 21 touchdowns. He's right at or above or is leading in so many of these critical categories this year, and he managed to stay healthy. He had some explosion left in him and some juice to him. We saw, I think, 2 years ago, he lost a little bit of that toward the end of the year, just looked tired. This year, with the same amount of work, same amount of yardage, same amount of miles on the chassis, was still explosive at the end of the season. And I think that's him getting older and maturing physically. And I think next year he's on track, or he's setting up having a better season next year than he had this year, and I will not be surprised when he does.
Yeah, I think he talked about the fact that he wanted to even be more durable, stronger as the season wore on, and he was not worried about a pitch count. He poo-pooed all those questions, Ben, about run the ball 25, 30 times. He goes, I'm ready for it. The later the season went on, keep feeding me the football.
Well, and I think that's the mentality that you want to have when you take on this big contract that he took on, and the organization saying, "Hey, Dalvin, even though that you've been banged up a little bit, we still believe in you." Then the attitude that you need as that player is to go out and say, "I'm going to prove it, and I'm going to earn every single dollar." So don't put anything in your head that's going to self-limit you when you say, "Well, I had 25 carries or 30 carries last game. I need to take it back because I got to preserve myself." No, you go out there and be the workhorse that they paid you for, and he did that, and he wanted to take on that challenge.
And I think the other part is that Dalvin Cook is the emotional leader on this offense. He's the guy talking to rookies after plays. He's the guy getting fired up. You see, he's the guy in the huddle talking with the rest of the offensive linemen and his teammates. We need that on defense. When we lost Kendricks, I think we lost a big part of that. But Dalvin Cook, as a leader, is unbelievably valuable to this offense. He, I think, is the leader of this offense.
Ben, are you really wearing a meat sauce T-shirt right now?
No. This is a Jim Klein sauce.
Oh, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, man.
It's the other sauce.
Yeah, the original sauce.
The original sauce.
This is the original.
They kind of look alike.
They kind of do look alike.
Actually,
yeah. This is the original Sicilian sauce.
It really is. Miss Big Jim. What a terrific tight end. Let's take a look at what's going on in the NFC. Of course, there's one big game going on in Chicago. The Packers and the Bears. This game means a lot to both teams, and Chicago's gotten off to a good start. Who could have imagined this when the Bears had lost, 6 in a row? Mitchell Trubisky was exiled to somewhere. I don't know where he was, but Nick Foles was taking over. He's taken over and done well. So it's early in this game. Rodgers is 4 for 4, but a little surprised. I mean, what the Bears have done.
Really surprised considering, the huge Packers win over the Titans and everything that the Packers are playing for. Obviously, they're gunning for that number 1 spot and a bye and home field advantage. Now, the rumor is David Montgomery is injured and out of this game, so that'll be a big thing as this game goes on.
Hey, congratulations to, by the way, Kevin Stefanski. We'll look at the standings here first, but Kevin Stefanski, a former Viking, a longtime assistant coach, got the head coaching job at Cleveland, led them to the playoffs, clinched the playoff save. I think they had the longest drought in the National Football League. So the Packers right now at 12-3, the Bears 8-7, the Vikings finishing at 7-9, and the Lions going Lions at 5-11, and that process, as Mike Zimmer said, starts pretty quickly as far as the evaluation goes. We can concentrate as we wait for Kirk Cousins to talk about from a financial standpoint, and if one would assume that Danielle Hunter is going to be healthy enough to resume his role as arguably one of the top defensive ends in the NFL. But I want to get both your guys' thoughts about what do they have to do to make him happy? I mean, as far as paying him right now, affecting the rest of the salary cap, making sure there are enough crumbs left over to fix this defense, Ben.
Well, and that's going to be an issue when you look at Brian O'Neill as well. On the other side, the right tackle has earned another contract. His 2021 season is the last of his rookie contract. So when you look at a team that is facing cap issues, the salary cap has yet to be determined because of the COVID revenue shortage. We don't know what that number is going to be, but even if that gets inflated to what it is right now to $198 million, we're still at the bottom of the league when it comes to cap space and spending power. So you have to take care of Brian O'Neill. Obviously, Danielle, I don't know how they're going to do it. Rob Brzezinski continues to surprise everybody in the league about how they're finding creative ways to sign people and get people back and extend everybody. He's going to have to put his creative hat on again and get these guys paid because they're absolutely two big anchors on both sides of the line for this team.
It's only an assumption, and we know what Kyle Rudolph has meant to this franchise, both on and off the field. You can go on and on about what Kyle is, but it's the NFL. A lot of people say it's not for long. I would assume that's all it is, that Kyle may not be back with this team next year.
That we don't know, but I'll say this: that what we did end the season with Irv Smith Jr. and Tyler Conklin, they both did a very, very good job. Especially Tyler Conklin. It's a tough position. It's not a position where a rookie, you see come in and just dominate the league. You saw, like, even with Hawkinson with Detroit, it's taken him a couple seasons. So those young guys in that room have really stepped up, and I think everybody feels the same about Kyle. They'd love to see him back. He's a huge part of this team. He's still a very, very good tight end. That's not the question here. The question is with Danielle Hunter, did his price just go up because of the way the defense ended the season, right? You know, Danielle and his representation are going to say, hey, without me, you have nothing in the way of a pass rush. And so we'll see how that goes. But then there's the health part. I mean, it's just too many variables, I think, right now to figure that out. I
want to get your guys' final thoughts as we wrap up our last show. As we look behind us here at U.S. Bank and we see what we've seen since September, an empty stadium. What it's been like for you, Ben, to kind of work on these games, look around, watch football here. The fans have not been able to experience, understanding there are much bigger issues in the world going on. We get that. But football, the heartbeat of a football city is its fans. And not having them here this year in the context of what the entertainment value is of a National Football League team.
Yeah, I think this is actually the positive side of this is, I hate to say it, but as a player, I think we took for granted the fans and the fan base. And you know, and sometimes you say that because you want to insulate yourself from all the criticism. And so when fans are being critical of you, you kind of tend to tell yourself, you know what, the fans' opinions, they don't matter. You know, there's an adage inside the locker room like, well, they don't pay our contracts. Well, they actually kind of do when it comes to TV revenue. But I think having no fans this year is going to give the players around the league a much bigger appreciation for the sacrifices that fans will make to go into the stadiums, to pay the tickets, to pay the parking, to pay the concessions, to go through all of that just to support their team and get a little bit of a distraction on the weekends and go watch a football game. And I think it's been a little bit difficult for us. You know, we've had to adjust a little bit, but it's been really difficult for the fans themselves because I know that they want to be here. It's been really hard for the players to get daily COVID testing, to go through all the rigors of you know, basically distance learning like our kids are doing. All that stuff has been turned upside down. And so I do think that this year it's a good reminder of how important fans are, not just to the global game, but to the local game as well.
Peter, let you have your final word as well.
I was going to piggyback on Ben. I mean, there's nothing like the roar of the crowd. There is absolutely nothing like running through a tunnel. I mean, I remember doing it at the Metrodome, an NFC Championship game, a Monday night game. There's nothing that you're going to experience the rest of your life that's even going to come close. And so I look at these young guys like Justin Jefferson and the success that he had. He has no idea what it feels like to run out on a U.S. Bank Stadium and hear what this crowd thinks of him, and you know, how the ovation that he's going to get on the first home game next year. That's something that I'm looking forward to, and I absolutely believe the fans make the game worth it. I mean, the money. The money's there, I guarantee, but all these guys have more money already than what they ever had or ever dreamed of having growing up. So it's the roar of the crowd, like Fred Zamberletti used to say, that brings you back and makes Sunday worthwhile.
Well, fingers crossed that we'll all be here come fall as well. We want to thank our entire crew here for all their work during the course of this season here in Vikings Postgame Live. Certainly thank Pete Bercich and Ben Leber, my good buds, for hanging out and enjoying this season as it was. Didn't turn out the way that many of us thought it would, hoped it would, but still entertaining at best. And guys, thanks so much, and thank you for watching Vikings Postgame Live, brought to you by Mystic Lake. Take care, everyone.